You did it. You updated your resume. You feel really good about it. Your top accomplishments are listed, no typos. You had your friend read over it and you just clicked apply to job. So now, time to wait. And you wait. And you wait. And you wait. You check your email. No, nothing there. Maybe voicemail. No, nothing there either. What happens to your resume after you click apply? If you've ever asked yourself that question, I'm glad you're here because we are going to talk about the journey that the resume takes through the hiring process today from someone who actually knows. But before we get ahead of ourselves, hi there, friends. My name is Kim. I am a big tech recruiter and career advancement expert. I'm glad you're here. As someone who has navigated this process on the back end more times than I can count, I have identified 5 of the major hurdles that someone's resume will need to jump in order to make it successfully through the hiring process. And so today, I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstage peek and talk you through what those hurdles are and how you, as a job seeker, can hack this information to make you more successful during your job search. And full disclosure here, I am just talking about the typical process based off of my over a decade experience across many industries and over many employers. So I don't want people to think that this is just one employer or just one industry and this is always the same. Just sharing with you what I typically see and what is pretty standard. So shouldn't be too many surprises in what we talk about today in regards to the timeline. So let's get to it. Hurdle number 1, the intake meeting with the hiring manager. Spoiler alert, the first hurdle is actually before you've even clicked apply. Now, hear me out, hear me out. So, when a new requisition is assigned to me as a recruiter, I will schedule a meeting with that hiring manager to learn more about their team and about their open role. During this meeting, we confirm the basic qualifications. We talk about what the team is working on, what the problems are that they're trying to solve, and what a good candidate looks like. This is unique to every role because every role is unique. So I invest this time at the beginning so that I know what my true north is. These notes from the hiring manager I will keep and I will review when it's time to review the applicants for my open role. Most job openings receive so many applicants. So many. The reason I point this out is that for you, when you are writing your resume, you need to be writing your resume for humans to review it, not the applicant tracking system. You're giving the applicant tracking system way too much credit, way too much credit. I still have to review my applicants myself with my eyeballs. So just know that you are writing your resume for a human being to look at. Okay, Kim, so how does a human being read a resume? Happy to share with you how I like to read a resume. The first place that I like to start, along with most people in Western culture, is we start at the top of the document. Now, there is some evidence out there that says that folks will read resume in the F pattern. I can't speak to the validity of that, but truth be told, the F pattern looks an awful lot like how you'd read pretty much any other document. You start at the top left-hand corner and go to the right. So I don't know about the F pattern, but that is how Western culture reads. So take that for what it's worth. Anyhow, I start at the top. There, when I'm looking at the top, first I will hope to find any sort of indication that this candidate is qualified for the role. So ideally, I'll be seeing some sort of title or job duties that scream, yes, I do this work, or yes, I meet this basic qualification. It should say something like software engineer, data analyst, or marketing coordinator, something like that. So then I have an indication, yeah, this person does the job that I'm looking to hire for. Then I will literally, folks, literally go through someone's work experience, high level, and count, sometimes even on my fingers, the years of experience that person has to make sure that they're meeting the basic qualifications. The second thing that I do is check education. Now, I don't always do this because education is not always a requirement for every job. But if it is a requirement, I will review education, licensure, and certifications. Any of those that are required for the job, I will make sure that someone has those. Once I confirm that the person meets basic qualifications, then I will go forward with reading in more detail the resume. When I am reading, these are the things that I am looking for. Okay, this person meets the basic qualifications. Does this person bring value? And that's based off of these three factors: scope, scale, and impact. Scope is basically your breadth of work, the daily duties that someone would complete in their role. Scale is at what degree are you doing those duties? So, are you the EA for one executive or three? Do you manage the social media calendar for one team or the entire department? And then the third, which is the most important part, that is impact. That is the okay, so what? So you did all of these tasks at this varying degree, but why does that matter? Why was that important to this employer who hired you? And why would that be helpful and important to us? Usually people share what that impact was in the relevant accomplishment section, which, as we all know, is my favorite part of the resume, but it doesn't have to be. What I'm looking for is evidence of what was the scope and the scale and the impact of the work that this person was doing. After I've done that review, now it's on to hurdle number 2, and that is the hiring manager review. It's worth noting here that the recruiter is the hiring expert. The hiring manager is the team and subject matter expert. There are two different skill sets and specialties for two different people looking at the same document from two different vantage points. So now you've got person number 2 looking at your resume, meaning that the reason why you should be called in for an interview needs to be even more obvious and needs to grab the attention of the subject matter expert. It's not an easy thing to accomplish. Hurdle number 3, that's the recruiter phone screen. Now, folks, this part of the interview process trips people up so often because people will walk into this part of the process and think, oh, it's just a conversation or it's just a formality. Hate to break it to you folks, but this is an interview. It really, really is. So, as a recruiter, I will have the resume handy and I am ready to start taking notes. I will reference parts of the resume and ask for someone to elaborate on it. So, the next time that you go into a recruiter phone screen, I would have a copy of your resume available to reference as well. How the resume functions differently in this part of the interview process than the rest is that the recruiter is now confirming basic qualifications with you on the phone, but is now also gleaning additional information and additional clarity about things that are unclear in your resume. So be prepared to provide additional context and clarity to anything in your resume. That is the purpose of the resume in the phone screen. Hurdle number 4 is typically the phone interview. This feels very similar to the recruiter phone screen, but the difference is usually the person conducting the phone interview is a hiring manager or a lead or subject matter expert on that team or an adjacent team. So now we are talking about an interview from someone who is a subject matter expert. If it's with the hiring manager, they are a team expert. If it's with someone who is a trusted member of the team, like a lead or someone from an adjacent team, this is a skill set expert for sure. So the questions that they will be addressing from your resume may be slightly different. Typically, a phone interview does start with a question like, walk me through your background. Or, I see that you have this experience. Can you please elaborate on that for me? I saw that you were able to accomplish that at this company. Tell me more. This is going to be an interviewer who typically lives and breathes similar work that you're either applying to do or have been doing. So they are going to ask questions that are going to reveal more about your accomplishments through your day to day experiences in that job. Hurdle number 5, that's going to be the lengthier interview. Now, every company is different. Sometimes the phone interview is the interview and you got the job and congratulations. Sometimes it's one lengthier interview that could be virtual, that could be in the office. Sometimes it's a few rounds of it. It's company's preference. But for the sake of limiting confusion, we'll talk about the lengthier interview. This is usually with the hiring manager once again, and then folks that are part of the team. This can look like a panel, this can look like various one on one interviews, this can look like a site visit, all sorts of different things. Each of those members of the interview panel or group of interviewers, or pod or a loop or whatever people want to call it, will have a copy of your resume. Now you have 3 to 5 more people's eyes looking at your resume with all varying levels of expertise and experience, both with interviewing, resume reading, and within the skill set that you're applying to do in general. So your resume needs to be obvious that you are the right person for that whole audience as well. Okay, Kim, thank you so much for this drive around the interview process. Why does that matter? It matters because in today's market, people are writing their resumes with this idea that they just need to get past some sort of applicant tracking system machine. When in reality, when we look at the whole process of where this resume goes, the resume needs to be written for the humans who are going to be reading it. The resume needs to be written for the decision makers. And these decision makers have varying amounts of skill and seniority and expertise in both hiring and reading resumes, as well as the skill set you're applying for. So, as you are reviewing your resume and getting ready to apply for jobs, these are the 3 takeaways I want you to use as your new lens as you make updates. First, your resume needs to stand out against hundreds of others. I am not certain of what the most recent statistic is for the number of applicants for a new posting in the United States, but it's an awful lot. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the hundreds right now or more. So your resume needs to stand out against hundreds of others. So how do you do that? Well, you make it easily scannable for human eyeballs. And honestly, folks, do not underestimate bolding important words. For those basic qualifications that were reviewed during the hiring manager intake, those basic qualifications are also listed on the job description. So read through those as well as any of those key tasks. Which of those are going to catch someone's eye and make them want to read my resume more? Pull those words and then in your bullet points, bold them. Are you a software engineer and you regularly code in Python and Java and Rust? Then I would, in your bullet points, bold those words. Does the basic qualification say that you need to have 3 or more years of experience with Tableau? In the bullet point that references Tableau, ideally at the top, you're going to highlight that. Are you applying for an EA position that supports 3 executives within the finance department? Then highlight that bullet point that shows that you can support multiple executives at the same time. Other things that you want to make sure catch someone's eye are any commonalities between your previous experience and the role you're applying to that aren't a BQ. That would be things like working in the same industry or with the same tools. Number 2, your resume needs to be able to spark a deeper conversation. Ideally, your resume will yield this sort of response. I see you were able to accomplish such and such results at blah, blah, blah company. Please tell me more about that. That kind of question I have seen appear in not only the recruiter phone screen, but also the other phone interview and the lengthier interview. So, if there are resumes that don't allow for someone to be able to ask deeper questions, you're not going to be able to stand out in this market. And the third is that you are communicating your value. Right now, it is not a surprise that more and more businesses are doing more and more with less. So when someone brings on a new member of the team, they want to make sure, most importantly, that this person is not only able to do the job, but they are able to solve the problems that that team is trying to solve. They want to bring someone on who's going to be an asset. They want to bring someone on who is able to contribute. So your resume is a mechanism that you use as a candidate to provide reassurance. Do you see this when I worked at this healthcare system? I can bring that skill set to your healthcare system because I have more experience now. Folks, I know that's a lot. The resume makes it through quite a few hurdles. That's a lot of pressure for one single document. But folks, it's very doable. So please give this video a save so that you can reference it later when it's time to update your resume. And also, folks, please give my channel a follow. I would love to see you here again. I utilized my previous recruiting experience to talk about resumes, interviews, and just other things jobs related. Thanks again for watching my video, and I will see you next time. Happy job hunting. Bye-bye.